We do pray that you will be with them and just bless them with good health. We pray that you will be with us as council members. Please help us to do the best for our citizens. Be with our servicemen, both here and abroad. Keep them safe as they stand in the gap for our freedom. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Sir. Greg Stewart.
Here.
Leo Smith.
Here.
Bill England.
Honey.
Ian Dawson.
Here.
Harley Bowser.
Here.
Joe Bird. Sean Crittenden.
Honey.
Mike Goddard.
Here.
Wanda Hatfield. Honey. Steve Clay.
Honey.
Mike Shambaugh. Here. Mary Bakershaw.
Honey.
Denise Taylor.
Here.
Victoria Vasquez. Terry Wilkinson.
Honey.
Brian Warner.
Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from December the 17th?
Make a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Get down to management resources. David Moore.
Good afternoon. I know y'all have our reports. I'll take any questions and try to answer them the best I can.
Okay.
If not, I'll try to get you the answer.
There you go. There you go. David?
Hey, David, last meeting in health, we were talking about the building that we're tearing down and reconstructing for the new OSU Med School.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I figured you know what the square footage was on that facility, or you can get access to it.
The square footage of what we're tearing down?
Yeah.
I'd have to get that for you to be accurate. It's 30, right around 30 area, maybe a little lower.
About 30,000.
Mm-hmm. But I can get the exact footage for you, get it to y'all.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Sir, Ms. Schimmel.
Hi, David.
Sorry.
Doesn't need to get into anything, but did you get my email?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
David, I don't know, it's been 2 or 3 months ago, and I've been waiting on this report too, that Pickerberg had asked for an inventory on the equipment there.
Okay.
Do you know where it is?
We're trying to match it up with an official one that was done a few years back, but we do have ours done, and we're just trying to bring them together. But I can get a copy of that sent out.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you.
Yeah, Dave, hope everything's been going good.
Busy.
And, and I wanna start this out by saying I appreciate you taking the phone call.
Anytime.
And I know that heart is there.
Yep.
I know that.
Thank you.
Now, the bigger picture, I'm still, have you figured out anything on the wood? Let's say an elder's needing it, and you know the struggles we've had, and I know the situation we're making sure we're dotting our I's and things,
Yes,
but
sir.
where are we at on that?
Well, we'll cut whatever wood we have, on our properties and stuff like that, and then we'll keep it at our shops. And it's available, and I think Marshall Lamb's group is how we're trying to run that. That way, we're not cutting for any one specific person, and we really don't control who gets it that way. It's kind of checks and balances. We haven't found really a secondary way yet, though. That's our problem.
Right, and through Marshall, that's a great group. But there's that application process, and that, if someone calls you in the cold, first of all, can they make it to the office to apply? And I know guys in the shops like Delonaghy and
Right.
And sometimes now they work hard.
Yes, they do. They're good guys.
But sometimes different ones have said, Sean, we got the time, and
It's the legal part of it.
and
I know, it's
And-
tough.
there's, and I'm not pointing this at you, Dave.
I understand.
But natural resources, sounds like you're gonna be tearing down a building. And I know for these get-togethers, you put up tents, and I know a lot of things, you've got your hand in a lot of things. And I don't think it's a stretch legally if Brian or Harley or anyone says, hey, you got an elder need some wood and you got some. And the issue was getting it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there's been a time or two that you did all you could do, but getting the wood itself, when they're saying that they've got time and they've got the equipment, but
And I also would like to go on saying thank you for you coming out and picking the wood up yourself. I mean, that speaks a lot. It does. I'll try to get with the AG's office, see if they can't help us figure out something.
yeah, and just if it takes some sort of legal paper that we vote on how we're going to figure something out, and you know, it's just a season that we need it, but it's pretty essential, and I appreciate your heart.
The guys at the shop, they love helping people.
Now, they are workers.
They love helping people.
I appreciate that.
And it's hard for them to say, we can't, because they love helping our elders and our citizens, period.
I know they do, but as it stands now, before we get together, there is some there, and
Yes.
and so worst case now is if they can come get it, or somebody can get it, just as long as they know who we're
Just
sending.
like check
Right?
in and yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
And I'll get something with AG's office and we'll try to figure out another way we
I
can do it.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Moore? Sir.
David, I don't think I have your number. Could you send that to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll give you a card before I walk away.
Make sure it has your cell.
It does, and I will answer it anytime I still answer them robocalls.
I do too.
Getting aggravated at them, but if my phone rings, it's Cherokee Nation phone. If it rings, I answer it. If I cannot answer it, I'm in a meeting, I'll get back to you as soon as it's over. Is there anything we can do about the robocalls while we're here?
Pass legislation, I
I
guess.
block them until you get new numbers.
Any other questions for Mr. Moore?
Dave, so what you're saying is you can have wood at the properties,
We do.
okay? And they just have to have a way to come and pick it up.
For right now, either that or we run it through Marshall Lamb's group is taking some out. Last time they weren't available to take it to the elder, but we have it. If they have a way of getting there, and we're trying to, because everybody's like, we want a rick of wood. We're trying to hold them back a little bit so we can spread it out a little more, because you don't want to give everybody or give one person your whole supply. I mean, you want to try to spread it out, get through the cold spells.
Yeah, we can just get them by the cold spells, and if they have any grandkids, that really works.
Yeah.
You don't want the grandkids there watching a rerun of Rawhide and they're out of wood.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Real estate, Ginger Brown.
Good afternoon. You have a copy of my monthly report. If you have any questions, I will be happy to address them.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you do all the maps and plating? Do you do that in-house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Dick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ginger, the trust process for no water property, where are we at in that?
We're almost completed with it. We're just waiting on the BIA to give us final notice. So we may be on hold on that for a little while.
I'm sure they got excuses. Okay. The other thing, could you send me a map of that property?
Sure.
I'd like to know how far south it goes.
Yes, sir, I sure will.
Thank you.
Victoria.
That's just something that I was curious about on the second page, number 19. What does that TAAMS stand for?
TAMP, Trust Asset and Accounting Management System. That's the project that we have had. It's been an ongoing project for 6 years, almost 7 years now. Once we get all of our land into that TAM system, which is the BIA system, what the federal government uses, and hopefully that will help us once we get all of our tracts of land encoded. And I have 2 people over encoding in TAMS right now to complete our tracts that we have been researching for the past 6 years.
Tell me again what it is.
Trust Asset and Accounting Management System.
Okay, thank you.
It's my understanding the entire federal government is on the TAM system.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Do you have any programs or anything available to people who have problems with their deed? Like they have to go through probate? I mean, do you advise them on what they need to do, who they need to talk to? Is that your department?
If it's trust or restricted property, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, we are the ones that they need to contact, and we keep records of all of our property there and just send them over to our office. That's what we do.
Is there anything like, I run into a lot where a home's been in a generation of families. It's never had a deed brought to it, and they can't qualify for any federal monies because they can't have a deed. They have to go through probate, and the cost is a little more than they can handle. Do we have any programs like that to help people with that?
If it is unrestricted or trust property, if it's unrestricted property, yes, we have them to fill out an application for the probate, and we do the probates in-house, yes.
Thank you.
As long as it's unrestricted property.
Right, and if it's not?
We generally refer them out to get an attorney. There are times when we will send them to the AG's office. If there's a question that we cannot answer, we'll send them to the AG's office.
There wouldn't be any funds available for that kind of help then?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
If it's fee property, that is, okay?
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with the passage of the Stigler Act, your department, is that going to increase your workload?
Yes, sir, it is.
Well, keep us posted, because if we need to do anything from the legislative side, because that's a big victory for us.
It is a big victory, yes, it is.
Yes, and appreciate all your department did too, because we've been working on that for many years. It's called the 47 Act.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you. We're very proud of that too.
And if there's anything we need to do from our end as legislative body, let us know, okay?
Thank you. Certainly
Thank you,
do
Mr. Chair.
appreciate that.
Yes. David.
Thank you. Hey, Councilman Shambaugh, I believe Linda Donaldson is the one that does the probates for us. Is she still doing the probates for us, Linda?
Yes, my office researches, and we send them over. We've started doing some of the petitions for her to help her out, and she is the attorney that does some of the petitions, and she is the attorney from the Cherokee Nation that shows up, and I think she has Peyton and a couple of other attorneys that's helping.
I didn't know. I've referred several people to your department. I just didn't know the process of what you did, and I just needed to know more.
They start out from our office with an application
Okay.
for the probate, and that's where they're starting.
Is there a large waiting list on those probates? Or are we pretty caught up?
Not from our office. There was. We're talking probably over 1,000 waiting lists, and then over the past few years we've scaled that way back.
Good.
And with the passage of the 47 Act, it is going to increase our workload. Those are going to increase. Those applications will increase. A lot of people didn't probate due to the fact that the land would go unrestricted if it was less than half blood. So now the 47 Act will fix that, so to speak.
Interesting. Also, the Ramona property that we have the casino on, if there's a lease that's on there, do you have that information in your office?
Yes, we would have prepared the lease, yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to come out and look at that. And also, I just want to commend Joel and Harold for Impact Aid. Very helpful, and they know the properties personally, and they've been assisting the schools in a really good way. So, anyways, you got you some good employees over there.
Yes, I do. I have 11 great employees, and we all try to help out. And those two, they know those back roads pretty good.
You got Sequoia County, Adair County,
Yes.
just got a nucleus right there.
Yes, yes,
Anyways,
we do.
They do a good job. Thank
They're
you.
hard workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Ginger, I noticed, like, feed trust application, there were 6 that were submitted. Is it possible to run me a report, say how many we've done that in the last 3 years?
Sure.
I'd be curious to see
Sure.
that. And the other one is also, can you run a report on the number of restrictions that were lifted in the last 3 years?
I could get close.
Okay,
yes.
the reason I say that is because some of our programs are rated, or the points are come up by how much land is on trust on a certain piece of quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd just like to see what's being put in and what's taken out, and make sure that those programs are keeping their stuff up to date as far as giving points to priorities for roads or water, something like that. So it'd be good to see if you could find that.
There are various reports that we have, and
Okay.
sure I can get that.
I appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
Any other questions? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Environmental programs, Mr. Tom Elkins.
Good afternoon. I was wondering if I thought I was the only person that watched reruns of Rawhide. I think you have our report. Saturday mornings. I don't know of anything, excuse me, I could bring out, except just to say that everything seems to be going well. I got with Wayne Isaacs. He directly supervises all the folks at the environmental programs and under Sarah. And we've kind of updated a little bit of the numbers for the goals. And he and I talked a little bit about trying to put numbers to everything that can be done. You know, there's an old adage that says you can't manage something if you don't measure it. So it's good to be able to put a number to something so you can tell, well, I've done this much of this type, this much of this type, and it gives you, at least gives you an idea that you're working towards something and being able to increase, or maybe you're going backwards and you need to readjust something. But, so we're trying to get that done to the extent possible. Excuse me, good night. I haven't hacked all day and now I'm sitting there, got a little something in my throat. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those or do my best to get that answer for you.
Sir.
On the second page here, it says staff met with the City of Tulsa, Tulsa Metropolitan Utility Authority, State of Oklahoma and Environmental Protection Agency to discuss the possible establishment of updated total maximum daily load for nutrients along the Uchee-Spavinaw water segments. Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. A TMDL, total maximum daily load, that's for the total of any type of pollutant into a water segment, whether that be a lake or a river. We've done that or done work on that for a lot of different water segments within the Cherokee Nation. Most notably, we tried to get some of that done on the Illinois River. That didn't pan out so well. There is an agreement, and I guess that would be a question for Sarah Hill on how far that's going to extend with the new administration and all, but Tulsa, TMUA, Tulsa, that's their utility authority, right? I've been in those meetings with them, and they just wanted to discuss if it was viable to do an updated TMDL on that. Right now, they have a TMDL on just phosphorus. And just phosphorus itself is not a great indicator of a water body's viability for drinking water. There are a lot of other things that touch that. And so they have a lot of data, but we had EPA there, us, well, me, the city, OWRB, and some other entities sitting around and discussing the data they had, what gaps were needed that needed to be filled in that to do that, and they're looking that it might cost well over $500,000 to do that. And once they got that data, would it be worth trying to establish that? Because you run into the same scenario with that as you would the Illinois River, in that Arkansas, their water goes into that. And right now they can really manage it with the data that they have. I don't know, it was our opinion that another TMDL effort for that kind of money for them might not help our citizens. And we really don't think it would help Tulsa that much. They have data, they really have a lot of money for a municipality to work on. They've been gathering data for decades, and they do a really good job on it. And you know, they use our data, they use because we try to collect data that the state and the feds don't do, and so we try to fill the gaps in that other entities don't do. You know, you got all the state and federal agencies that collect water. Good night. There's a lot of them, and so our data goes straight into the EPA database as well as theirs, and it's up to a certain quality, so it can be used by any of those entities. They have a gob of data, so just establishing or re-upping a TMDL just for the sake of doing a TMDL might not be the most cost-effective strategy.
There was two reasons why I was curious what that was all about. One was because of the poultry issue, and I believe the water quality going into Tulsa is one of the things that actually gives a lot of potential motivation for them to care about what happens.
Oh, absolutely.
When east of Tulsa, because that's where the water comes. That's where a substantial part of the water comes from. But the rest of the water comes right through my district, through Uliga Lake and through Verdigris.
Absolutely.
And the Verdigris River is a totally different kind of body of water.
It absolutely is.
But it's a body of water that's coming straight through Victoria's neck of the woods down there, and the poultry issue is becoming real in that part of the world. And that's going to start becoming an issue in that body of water over the next generation. And I want to make sure that we are in partnership with all the water that goes through our nation, not just that is the beautiful clear water that's down here. The water that's not so clear going through Verdigris still is used by a huge portion of the population. And
of the Cherokee Nation, absolutely.
We need to be doing what we can as a nation to make sure that we are in those talks now before it becomes a problem.
Absolutely, and I think that's one thing that Sarah really is pushing for us to be in. We're in just about every water discussion there is, one way or other. It's not just me. I mean, Sarah and all the folks that work for her. She's got several staff that do this, but I'm in one aspect of it, certainly. But yeah, she absolutely does that.
I'd love to learn more about our overall efforts on that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I think Channel 2 had something on the lead in the water for kids, and so you guys are testing those waters to see if there's any
in schools. We absolutely are, and we've started with Sequoia and a few others. And Wayne actually came up with that. The BIA and EPA got together and said, "Well, we'd like you to, work on these two," but they only wanted us to look at like 2 schools, and so that was not near enough. And most of the lead that could possibly be in school drinking water. And the reason I know this, I bring this up, I think everybody says that, if you talk to Tom for 10 minutes, you're going to find out he used to be a plumber. And I did. But I remember in the 80s, the mid to late 80s, when they came up with the lead rule that you couldn't have any type of lead in drinking water. I used to think, oh, God, that's crazy. Because all we were using, we weren't actually putting lead pipes in, but we were using solder with lead. And I thought, well, good night, if a plumber really is doing it right, there's no contact. Well, there is. I started to go back to school and I figured, well, I can see the physics of it and the chemistry of it. There is. And so a lot of your older, not even ancient water coolers that kids get a drink out of, some of the older ones, those reservoirs, have lead in that solder. And so we're going back and checking some of those things. And if we find any lead, then we're trying to find the source of that lead. And it's a very good thing that we should have been doing, and now we're pushing on that much harder than we have been. I mean, there's a lot of, I've discussed this several years ago. Lead is one of the childhood diseases, because that's most who that's going to impact. Us adults, we can get lead in our drinking water or from lead dust or something else, and it's not going to, unless we have a huge amount of it, it's not going to physically impact us with anything, unless there's a lot of it. Now, kids, they're developing, and it impacts them to a great deal. That is one of the most preventable childhood diseases there are. And as we say, when a child they usually target kids from in vitro to 6 years old. Once those children lose IQ points, they don't come back. And so this is something that the Cherokee Nation, that you allocate dollars for lead-based paint and other things, this is something, I think this is money well spent. It's a lot of money. We spend a lot of money on that, but it's worth my grandkids and my kids, as I imagine it is your grandkids and grandkids. We do really good. We have more lead-based paint professionals than any other organization in the state of Oklahoma. Probably for our size, any in the country.
Is there a filtration system for lead in these schools?
Oh, absolutely. That can be filtered out.
Are we doing that at our schools in the area?
Not right now, and the reason for that is it's not coming from outside, generally. I mean, it could be, and that's what we're looking at. Generally, it's in the piping systems, the older piping systems. And so again, we're not talking about lead pipe. We're just talking about copper systems that had lead solder. So if we find lead in the water, then we trace that back and find out where that's coming from.
What's the cost on a filtration system for a school? Have you guys looked into that yet?
We haven't, because again, it's not, you can't filter the incoming water and say we're catching it.
Yeah, it's in your water fountains, and it's
But
in the school itself.
what we would do, instead of trying to filter that out, we'd replace it. And generally, the sources of that lead aren't astronomical.
Yeah.
So either the school can afford it, or imagine some other means could be done to help them do that pretty economically.
What does that filtration system look like, Tom?
Most filters will catch lead of some sort.
I mean, they're at the water fountain.
It would be much cheaper to take that water cooler out and put one in that doesn't have lead in it than it would be to try to filter out anything that comes out of that. Much cheaper.
Okay.
Especially over the long term, because, I mean, any type you have any kind of filter, it has to be maintained. So you're going to have people checking it and changing the filter or backwashing it or doing something with it constantly. And I know this for a fact. Anything that has to be maintained will typically not be maintained well. So it's better to have something just completely fixed than to have something that you have to come back and maintain.
We need to.
Like rehabbing an old house, just get one that's well.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Absolutely.
I agree with you that, testing is very important, to our water. But another issue that really has come up in my district, with chicken houses, is what do we do to fix that? And, I sit on the coordinating council, and I've been to numerous meetings. I don't know if Sarah's here or not, but here's the deal, and I don't see any change that's going to happen at all. The big poultry doesn't seem to want to do any setback with their houses as opposed to how close they can be to each other. And the things like wells and permits, the rules on those are just, anybody can get it for $10. It's just, there's just not any oversight to it. And even when you start getting into looking at how much water they use, they really can't go and look at their houses to find out how much they're using unless there's a complaint. So there's a lot of things that is wrong that really hasn't been addressed, and really the only way it can be addressed is through legislation.
Absolutely.
Legislation starts in February, is my understanding. It's January. And when we start talking about Lake Uchee and Lake Spavinaw, you're talking about Clouds Creek, Beatty's Creek, Spavinaw Creek. You have 3 creeks there. You have a ton of houses going in on Keithley Colcord Road. That's just above all 3 of those major supplies to Lake Uchee, which obviously could affect Tulsa. Are we engaged in any talk with any legislators about setback rules, about anything like that, about these chicken
I know
houses?
Sarah is. I know she is.
Okay.
To the extent that is, I
really
don't.
coming up really quick. And I'm kind of afraid that we're on the verge of getting left behind on this deal, So that's my concern about all of this is, if it's not legislation, I don't see it happening. So.
And Sarah is unable to attend today, but I think I might be able to shed a little bit of light on that. as you know, the co-chair for the coordinating council was Secretary of Agriculture Jim Reese, and he's since retired.
Shoot, I know that.
Kevin Stitt has appointed Blaine Arthur to fill his role on that council, and I know Sarah met with her last week and had a very good conversation, and she thinks that relationship is going to be helpful for us moving forward to help kind of resolve these issues. The coordinating council, as you know, hasn't met since late November, and that's partly because of this transition period. So I think we certainly are committed to engaging as we have and with the same level of diligence to try to solve this problem. With the failure of the emergency rules, it does put it into the posture of being a legislative fix, and we're pursuing every avenue that we can to try to achieve that goal.
Do you know if we've spoken to any legislators about this?
I don't know if she's spoken to anyone specifically. I know that they're not currently in session.
Right.
But I think we're definitely.
Well, their session starts in February.
Right, but I know that we're definitely trying to put together a plan, after building that relationship with Blaine Arthur to kind of have those conversations. So we're still pursuing this issue with the same level of diligence that we have been. It's just a little bit of this transition in Kevin Stitt administration has kind of slowed us down a little bit.
Well, time's just running out a little bit, because, I mean, things will have to be done before that legislative session gets started.
Sure.
I mean, it'll have to be if they're going to be looked at.
And I know that the moratorium was continued through spring, so we still have a little bit of time once they start the legislative session, and hopefully we'll have a better lay of the land once we have additional conversations with Blaine and hopefully have another coordinated council meeting.
Do you know when that is yet? That hasn't been set yet, has it?
It hasn't been set yet, no.
I haven't gotten any emails on it, so. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can speak just a little bit. That meeting was in Sallisaw that I was invited to, and I couldn't make it that day because of prior commitment, but I called Sarah, and there was a senator there. Senator Allen was there at that meeting, so she did get to get his ear, and then also Blaine was there, and she told me they had a great conversation. And I think the part of that was that group that wanted to meet there with the Aviagen group. Aviagen is not like Simmons and not like the other ones. It's they do breeding stock, so they're in our area in Sequoyah County because they want to be away from all the other chicken houses because they guarantee salmonella-free birds, so their biosecurity, their lockdown, everything, they have to be so far. But I've told Senator Allen, because he's from down in the south area, about, they're wanting to, OK Foods is wanting to do a lot of houses down there, and I also told him about the issues that we have up in the Delaware County that, that we wanted to make sure that it was done right for, for the sake of the people that you represent and the people that we all represent, so. But I do know that there was a senator there, and he's going to be, I'm not sure if he's chairing the agriculture side of that, but he's heavily involved in that too. So she did have his ear as well. So, thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, sir.
Someone here for Sarah Hill?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go right ahead.
She sends her regrets that she wasn't able to make it, but she did want me to mention a couple of things. First is, in late December, we were awarded $809,000 from the Volkswagen Litigation Trust. That money we're using in conjunction with the LONOA grant that we've already presented a couple of months ago, which puts us in a good position of about just over $2 million for our EV initiative. And so we're currently working through proposals as to what that looks like. Hopefully we can pin down that plan here pretty soon. The other issue she wanted me to mention was her meeting with Blaine Arthur, which went very well. And so we're looking forward to getting the coordinating council back in full motion as soon as we can. With that, if you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Any questions? Did a good job. Thank you. Old business.
You got a comment? David Moore.
Can I make a clarification? I had a little senior moment on that square footage of that building.
Yes, go right ahead.
The numbers flipped around. Instead of 30,000, it's 13,100 square feet that we're going to tear down. So, sorry. Just want to clarify that.
I thought it was a big building.
I'm not as old as you.
Thanks, David.
New business done. Announcements? Any announcements? I need one more motion.
Can we adjourn? Second.
All in favor?
Goodbye.
We are adjourned.